everybody. Welcome to Marketing Mondays number 68. It is Monday morning, November the 7th. It's hard to believe we are well into November already. We are going to have a great show today. I've got a lot of questions that came in, but there's also going to be questions that come in from the audience. So give me a second to get people pinged in, as I always do, and then we will get the show going. Thank you for tuning in this morning. Hopefully you guys had a great weekend and are ready to get the week started. So give me 1 second and I will get everybody in and we will get going. So I just got back this last weekend from the SEMA show in Las Vegas. It seemed like the show was really good, well attended. So I took that as a really good sign as far as people were spending the money to be out there and interested in learning how to grow their business and things like that. So it definitely was a well-attended show, and that's a positive thing. Last year, it was the first show back after they canceled for the COVID the prior year. So last year was a little bit light, but this year was definitely much more well-attended by both exhibitors and attendees. And it seemed like everybody had a little bit of a positive attitude. So again, I think that, obviously we all watch the news and things like that as far as where the economy's at. But basically, based on what I saw at the show last week, it did seem like that a lot of people felt like things were not maybe as bad as we hear every night because they were spending the money to be at the show and things of that nature. So with that being said, I'm going to make sure that I think everybody is here. So I'm going to go ahead and get started because we've got a half an hour. We've got a lot of questions that have come in. Last week, we didn't do the show. So there were questions that were coming in that I basically still have left over from last week. But as always, if you're unfamiliar with the format, if you have a question, just go ahead and put it in the comments of the video, and I will see it come up on the right-hand side of my screen, and I can answer the questions. Although I have questions that had come in for the prior week, I will always make a priority to answer the questions that come in live. So if you have a question or if you have a clarifying question about something I'm talking about, go ahead and put it in the comments, and we will get to it. So thank you, everybody, for being here, and we're going to dive right in because the first question out of the gate is kind of a broad topic, so it's going to take a little bit of time to unpack it. So this is a question I get not just this last week, but I actually get quite a bit when I talk to people, and I'm discussing things with a potential client on the phone or things like that, and I utilize the word SEO. And a lot of times people will stop me right in my tracks and ask me, like, what is SEO? So let me break that down and let's talk about it, because the first question I have right here is, what is SEO? So first, it's an acronym. So it's not, in and of itself, it means search engine optimization. So again, SEO, search engine optimization. So what does that mean? Search engines, obviously, you guys are familiar with that. That's going to be things like Google, Bing, Yahoo, things like that. Things you're using online to search for a particular topic you're interested in, or a question you want answered, or a product you want to look up, things like that. That's your search engine. So right there, that's the first two words of it, optimization. That means, what it means in this context is optimizing your website or your company assets such that when somebody is searching for a product or service that you offer, that your product actually comes up in that search result. So ideally, as a business owner, what you want is if somebody searches for a product or service that you offer, that your product is going to come up high in those search results. And we all are familiar with how search engines work because we utilize them. So again, most of us would probably say that we only look at maybe the top 3, 4, 5, 6 maybe results, and we typically are going to click on those and get the information we want, or we're going to call somebody in there, things like that. So search engine optimization is the process of making it so that your company shows up high in those search results so that you get those clicks or you get those visits to your website, you get that phone call, things like that. So from a basic definitional standpoint, that's search engine optimization. Now, what's all involved with search engine optimization? Because again, this is where we kind of have to unpack it. There's a lot that goes into this. So search engine optimization there's a couple different things to think about. There's two sides of it distinctly right from the top that I want to talk about. And one is, you probably have noticed as you've done searched for things recently, that you may come up with a specific category, like where there's a map and there's pins in the map to show different companies that potentially offer that particular service and or product. So that is what we call the map pack, and that's driven by your Google business page. The other search results are going to be the individual listings on the page, and those are broken down into two categories. They're paid listings, and next to those you're going to see ad, typically, or sponsored or something like that. And then you're going to have what was called the organic listings, which are the free listings that come up because of the search engine optimization that's done on your website or things like that. So when you look at a page, you actually have three things going on. You have paid advertisements, where companies are using Google AdWords to pay to have their listing show up. You have the map pack, or you have the map with the pins in it with the listings there. That's called the map pack. That's driven by your Google business page. And then you have the organic listings, which are the other listings that come on below the paid listings. And those are the non-paid listings driven by the content on your website. So that's sort of the categories that you're going to see when you do a search online. So now that we've defined that, how you show up optimized for paid listings, obviously you're going to have to go into Google AdWords, and you're going to have to build an ad, and you're going to have to pay, create the right keywords, things like that to show up in those paid listings. That's not really what we're going to dive into in this question. What we're going to talk about is the organic or the free listings. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the listings derived from your website, and that's the organic listings that are going to show up below the paid listings. That's going to be made up by the content of your website, how well that's put together. Google has what they call an algorithm, which is, as it searches the internet and it tries to connect what somebody's searching for with the proper results. That's what the algorithm is designed to do. So they're always changing that, and there's always different things that they're looking for to elevate companies up or down those search rankings. The way the content is built on your website, the things that you have on your website, how that is done, image optimization, things like that, are going to be the things that Google looks at when they make a decision on what results they're going to put to the top of those in the search engines for the organic or the free listings. So that particular type of SEO is work done on the back end of your website, typically, to make sure that your website is telling Google an accurate picture of what products and services that you offer, such that they know to connect your website to what somebody's searching for, so that you can come up in those results. And the better you do that, the higher you're going to show up in those results. So that's the organic search results there. The map pack is driven by your Google business page. There's also ample opportunities to add products and services, about us, all types of things in your Google business page that should be filled out. Add posts, add images, get reviews, Google reviews. We've talked about that at length before, so that you can actually come up high in those Google map pack listings. So you have the opportunity in three different ways to come up at the top of a search engine, a search on Google or any other search engine. A paid way that you can go in via Google AdWords. We're going to specifically talk about Google here because it's almost 90% of all website traffic. So you could do Google AdWords to show up paid. You could do SEO on your website, both on and off website SEO, to come up in the organic listings below the paid results. And you can do Google business page optimization to show up higher in the map pack. Those are the three ways you're going to show up. I put all of those things in a little bit of a way under the SEO header, a little bit less on the paid Google AdWords. But again, if you really want to optimize where you're coming up at the top, some companies want to come up in a paid listing, they want to come up in the map pack, and they want to come up in the organic listing. So they're really dominating the top of that page. And again, hence the definition, search engine optimization. In that situation, they would have three chances at the top of the page to get that click or to get that phone call or things like that. So I'm going to take a quick drink before I go on to the next question. So if you guys have any questions about that, put them in the comments. There's a lot to unpack there. I feel like I just sort of streamed over it, but it gives you an overview. And I get that question quite a bit from a lot of people as far as just a general question is, what is SEO? So I wanted to make sure I hit on that and hit on it pretty thoroughly. But if you have any clarifying questions on that, please go ahead and put them in. I'd be happy to answer. With that, I'm going to go ahead and jump on to question number 2. And this is actually an interesting question. I actually just talked about this with somebody this last week as well. It says, how much should a growth-focused company be spending on marketing? It's a great question. Kind of a rule of thumb, and again, this is going to vary, but a good rule of thumb that I try to think, if you're focused on growing your company and not just maintaining, but you're really looking to grow, be thinking along the lines of 10% of revenue. So let's just say your company does $500,000 in top line revenue. It wouldn't be out of line for you to look at spending $50,000 or 10% of that $500,000 to on marketing and something that might be paying an agency to do some things for you. That might be paying for advertisement on Google or social media. That might be paying for magazine advertisements, mailers, all of your marketing. Think about it. If you added all that up, it should relatively be about 10% of your overall revenue if you want to focus on growing your company. So that's just a good rule of thumb. Obviously, if you're more in the standpoint of, hey, I don't know that I really want to grow a ton, but I really want to maintain what I have, you may be able to back off that number. If you really are heavily into growth and you feel like that you've got opportunity there, you might even be willing to spend above and beyond that number. But a good rule of thumb is to think about it from a standpoint of 10% of overall revenue. And again, that's going to be an accumulation of all your marketing expenses, not just advertising, but any fees you pay for management, any advertising fees, anything that you do. So, okay. Aaron actually asks here, I had some trouble fully understanding how to use Sitelinks in my AdWords campaigns. So Sitelinks are going to be essentially, like, think of them as shortcuts to different areas on your site. Like, let's say your company offers 3 different services or 4 different services. You can actually create site links in AdWords. And again, if you're not familiar with AdWords, this might be a little bit, you might have a little bit of trouble understanding this, but there's extensions within AdWords. One of those extension types is something called site links. Site links allow you to actually list out maybe your services or even a contact us or things like that. Essentially different pages on your website that you can actually put in that name, and then you can put in the link directly to that page on your website, and you can actually put in a little description. And what that allows somebody to do is somebody that's looking at your ad, if they're specifically looking to contact you or they're specifically looking at one of your particular services, they can click on that and go directly to that page on your website as opposed to maybe the home page on your website. So extensions, I'll take a little bit of one thing on this. Extensions are extremely important in Google AdWords. There's a lot of different things, call extensions, site links. There's a lot of different ways, display extensions, video extensions, all these type of things you can do in AdWords. Those are the type of things that are going to allow your ad to stand out from other more maybe plain ads. So you really want to take time to fill out those extensions probably, because it's going to actually help your ad to perform a little bit better. Site link extensions are actually, like I said, a way to give somebody essentially a shortcut to a specific part of your website, as opposed to them having to go to your homepage and then navigate your website. So hopefully that answers that question for you, Aaron. I appreciate you bringing it up. AdWords I could do multiple shows on just AdWords alone. There's a lot to unpack in AdWords, and it's something we're constantly working on. I tend to spend a lot of time with our Google rep, just understanding the different opportunities of AdWords as they become available, because there's a lot there. So anyway, thanks for the question, Aaron. I'm going to go ahead and jump on to the third question here. And this actually deals with an element of AdWords. So we'll jump into that. This says, how can I know what people are searching for when they see my ads on Google? So the way I'm reading this question, and I hope that I'm reading it the right way for the person that asked it, is They want to know when their ads are showing up on Google, what somebody typed into Google to get to their ad, for their ad to display. So they're saying, how can I know what people are typing into Google when they see my ad? That's a very important question to know. And it's a very important thing to be checking on a regular basis. As you go into Google AdWords, in your keyword section of Google AdWords, there's something called search terms. Now, there's an area where there's keywords where you're going to populate it with the keywords that you want to come up for. And then there's something called negative keywords, and I'll explain that a little bit in a second here. And then there's search terms. And search terms are going to be the things that people have actually typed into Google that your ad displayed for. These are extremely important, and I'll explain why. There's a lot of times that if you have broad keywords, that you could be coming up, your ads could be displaying for things that aren't really relevant to your product and or service. So when that's happening, you potentially are spending money to show up for things that aren't a good fit for your business. So it's important that you understand when that's happening and take action to alleviate that. So search terms are going to tell you what your company, what people are typing into Google for your company to show up for. You want to go in and review that list and see if there's things that people are typing into Google that you're showing up for that you don't want to show up for. If that's the case, you will put a check mark next to those terms that you don't want to, that you don't think are relevant to you, that you don't want to come up for. And then you can go to the top and you can add those to your negative, what's called your negative keywords. Now, the negative keywords are essentially words where you're saying, hey, Google, if somebody types these things into Google, I don't want to come up. I don't want my ads to display. So I'll give you an example. We work with a lot of companies in the window tinting industry. So tinting is a very relevant keyword. If somebody's searching for tinting, there's a decent chance that they may be searching for window tinting. However, tinting is also done, and we found this out just over time working with a lot of clients, tinting is also done to eyebrows and things of that nature, eyelashes and things of that nature. So what we've had to do is to go in and as we're reviewing the search terms, we see things like eyebrow tinting or eyelash tinting and things like that. And we need to now then go in and set those up as a negative keyword to say, hey, I'm looking to come up for window tinting and window tinting related terms, but I don't want to come up for eyebrow tinting or eyelash tinting because that's not what I do. So then you would set those up as a negative keyword. It's the same thing with, like if you're a professional shop and you do, you're an auto mechanic, so you may want to set up like something like DIY or do it yourself as a negative keyword, because there may be somebody that's searching for things like do it yourself alternator replacement. Let's say that. You maybe are a mechanic and you want to show up for alternator replacement, but you don't want to show up when somebody's searching for do it yourself, because what they're looking for online is a video or instructions of how to replace an alternator. What you're looking for, what you want is somebody that's looking to have their alternator replaced or a professional that's going to do that job. Those are two very different things. So you might want to set up do it yourself or DIY as a negative keyword so you don't show up in searches that include those things. The other thing you might think about is like things like tools or something like that. So somebody made us using that alternator example, change tools needed for alternator to change an alternator. You may set up things like that as you see search terms come up that are like, okay, people are searching for this, but I don't really want to come up for that because they're not really looking for a professional service. They're looking to do it themselves or training or things like that. So those are some of the ideas of things that you would put in the negative keywords to try to eliminate your ads coming up for non-relevant searches. So when this question, again, back to how do I know what people are searching for when they see my ads? That's all going to be under that search terms tab. And you want to go in there on a fairly regular basis and review what people are searching for when your ads show up. Because if you find that people are searching for a lot of things that aren't relevant, you're going to want to start setting up negative keywords so that you're not spending money to show your ads to people that aren't really looking for your product or service. So that's a great question. I know it's a little bit complicated if you're not sitting right in front of AdWords looking at it. But that's a great question, and it's something that anybody that's running AdWords on a regular basis should be doing as part of the maintenance of those AdWords campaigns, is looking what the search terms are and setting up appropriate negative keywords. So let me see. This next question is, my ads keep getting rejected on Facebook and Instagram as it says they are a special category. What does that mean? Okay. I don't know that I could touch on everything that might be a special category, but if your ads are coming up for something that says special category on Facebook and being rejected, what it's typically saying is that it thinks that your ads are with regard to something like housing or education or a job or something like that. So say you're trying to run a help wanted ad, you cannot, that'll be a good one I can run. Say you want to run a help wanted ad for your company and you want to boost it, and say that you think that a perfect candidate would be between the ages of 18 and 25. Well, unfortunately on Google, or on Facebook or Meta at this point in time, you can't run an ad like that, because the minute you choose that it's a help wanted ad, because of discrimination and things like that, they will not allow you to then choose an audience of a certain age group. You have to leave the audience age group wide open, because it's an employment ad. So you can't, because it's a special category, you can't choose that it's an employment ad and restrict age or restrict sex or things like that. So you have to be careful on things like that. If it's something that's like housing related, where it's for renting, you can't restrict it on age or demographic type things like that. You have to leave those things open. Sometimes it could create some issues with regard to targeting, and you may end up having to target people you don't necessarily want to. But one of the things Google or Facebook and Meta are trying to do is eliminate the possibility that somebody's going to use that targeting to discriminate against somebody, to only target the housing somebody's offering to a specific demographic group, or only target the job offer to a specific age group. So a lot of times when you see those restrictions and say that it's a special ad group, that's basically saying you can't have an ad about this topic or this subject or what you're trying to accomplish and also use this sort of targeting, because we look at it as discriminatory. So that actually came along after 2016 Cambridge Analytica scandal and all this other thing. They started taking away some ways that you could target to make it harder for somebody to utilize ads in a nefarious way. Unfortunately, it sometimes makes it a little bit more difficult to run ads that aren't negative in any way, but it's one of those things where in order to err on the side of caution, sometimes your ads are going to get rejected if you don't pay attention to that. So that's what that is. And then if I have any other questions that come in, I got one more question that came in this last week here. Unless I got some other ones, I'll go ahead and answer this, and we'll get on with our week. So the last question that came in here is, what call to action button should I use on Facebook and Instagram? So what they're talking about is when you build an ad on Facebook or Instagram, in the final step of that ad, a lot of times it will give you an ability to add a button to the bottom of the ad. And that could be anything from a learn more to contact us to buy now, or anything, message us, anything like that. So with regard to what call to action button should I use, it depends on what you want them to do. I will say, if it's an educational post where you're trying to give somebody some good quality information and educate them about something, learn more may be appropriate. If you select that, it's going to ask you for a URL. When somebody clicks that button, it's going to take them to a particular page on your website to learn more about that topic. If it's contact us, it's typically going to take them to your contact us page. You're going to put the URL in there. If it's message us, it's typically going to take them directly to the message app to where they can DM you on Facebook and send a message to you directly on Facebook. I would say that I would not select message us unless you're going to be paying attention to that. There's an expectation that comes when you use some of the tabs like message us, that you're going to be paying attention to that. So if you use message us, I would say you need to be checking in on your Facebook page and Instagram pages maybe every hour to 2 hours at most, to make sure if somebody's messaged you that you're going to be able to message them back. Because if somebody messages you and you don't get back to them to the next day, the expectation when somebody uses a message us button is that you're going to be getting back in a more timely manner. and that lead will have gone cold, and you probably actually gave them a bad impression of your company by having a message us button and then not paying attention to it till the next day. There's also like call us. There's a lot of different options there. What I would say is just make sure that you select the button that most appropriately is in alignment with what action you would want that person to take. If it's a visit to your website to check out a project you worked on or whatever, learn more with a link back to that page on your website might be perfect. If it's a lead generating ad and you want them to call you because you're going to pick up the phone and you feel like that's going to be the best way that you potentially can convert that interest into a legitimate lead, then call us might be appropriate. And you're going to obviously put in the phone number that you want them to call. Message us is another, like a direct type thing. But again, if you're going to utilize those, be ready to answer that phone call or answer that message, because the expectation when somebody clicks on those is that there's going to be somebody on the other end of that getting back in touch with them. Contact us, get quote. Those are all other ones that you want to take somebody right to the page on your website where the contact us information is at. Or if you have a place on your website where somebody can fill in information to get a quote and you're going to use the get quote button, take them directly to that page on your website where that get quote information is. You don't want to have somebody have to navigate around your site to fill out a get quote form when they've already, by selecting the get quote button, they're already saying they want a quote. So take them directly to that page. So again, select the button that most appropriately aligns with what you want the person that's looking at it to do, and then make sure you set that up properly to take them right to that place so they don't have to think about it. They don't have to jockey around and figure out where they need to go, that you take them right to that page to get a quote or to contact you, or to, if it's call, again, have it be a number that people during business hours are answering. Because if they click call now, they're going to expect it, have somebody pick up that phone call. Or if they message you, they're going to expect a timely response. So with that, I think we are right. We're not quite there. We're not right up against it. I don't see any other questions coming in, but I'll wait for a second to see if anybody has any follow-up questions. But again, it was a busy week last week. One thing I want to make a note of is I am considering starting to do Marketing Mondays in the afternoon on Monday. So if that's something you guys think is a better thing than doing it first thing in the morning, I've heard some feedback from some people, especially on the West Coast, that this is a little bit early and they tend to miss out on them. So I'm thinking about doing like 4:00 Eastern Standard Time on the East Coast, which would be 1:00 on the West Coast, and just changing this to an afternoon show so that more people can tune in live. If you think that's a good idea, you think that's a bad idea, go ahead and leave it in the comments. Give me some feedback so I know. But starting next week, you may see this, the Marketing Monday shift to an afternoon format. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I appreciate the questions that continue to come in. I hope that you guys find these helpful. You can also go to my YouTube page. Just look up Patric Fransco on YouTube, and you're going to find my channel there. We break down all of these Marketing Mondays into individual questions, so you can go there and instead of listening to a half an hour and hoping your question gets answered, you can look at all the individual questions and just watch the ones that you want, and they're in 4 or 5 minutes each video because it's all the questions broken down into individual questions. So again, that's on YouTube. You can check out all those. And again, I appreciate everybody's support, appreciate everybody's questions. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you have a terrific week, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.